Will you lead me to paradise?
Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Curtis, and today I'm going to do a quick recap on episodes 5 and 6 of The Waterfront. Starting with episode 5, we see Grady's men putting drugs on Harlan's boats, and we find out that they are doing multiple runs a week opposed to the 2 that they thought they would be doing. After this, we see Sanchez go to the sheriff's house, and he notices that there is a trail camera attached to a nearby tree. He's able to extract the camera, and he's able to get the memory card from it. After this, Sean is officially introduced to his brother and sister as their sibling, and King gets upset because his father was cheating on his mom with her friend at the time, and also because he feels like Sean is lying about being Harlan's son. Sanchez comes to the fish house and tells Harlan that he needs to talk to him, and I was just like, uh-oh. He tells him that the trail camera captured him going to the sheriff's house the night that he died, and I know Harlan's stomach was bubbling. He also tells him that the camera captured his wife arriving and also captured her carrying some items out of the house. Sanchez tells him that he will make the footage go away if he provides the name and location of his supplier and that he has 24 hours to do so. Grady arrives, and I was a little concerned because Sanchez is still nearby. He meets Bree's son, who tells him that he will take him to the fish house to see Harlan. Grady begins to ask him a bunch of questions about the fish house as far as the number of boats that they have and the number of employees that they have. And I was just like, sir, you need to relax. He eventually makes it to the fish house, and he is introduced to Kane, who is shocked to meet him. Harlan tells Belle what happened, between him and Sanchez, and she tries to think of a lie, but I think she knows that it will not hold up. She thinks that he should consider giving up Grady's information. After this, Kane confronts Bree, and y'all, Kane to me is so dramatic and extra. I really do not like him. He tells her that their dad is going to be crushed when he finds out that Bree is the one who is responsible for everything that's happening, which to me is not really true because you have to remember when she first started dealing with Sanchez, the sheriff was still alive. So that's not going to fall on her, but I can see where he's coming from. This causes Bree to get very emotional. She starts crying, and it just so happens that her son walks in as she's crying. And he starts to inquire about what's going on, and actually shows a little bit of emotion towards her. And I was just like, okay. I think he's finally starting to loosen up a little bit, lose that tough guy act, and starting to care about his mom. She tells him that she ruins everything, and then she storms off. After this, we see Grady's people load up a small box truck and start to drive to a destination, but they are pulled over, and I was just like, shit. This is not going to be good. After that, Grady and Harlan finally meet, and Grady is being a little flirtatious to Kane, and I thought it was funny because I know this was pissing Kane off. It appears that Grady wants to do some operations inside of the fish house, but their guys, they're not really with it. As far as with Harlan and Kane, they're like, that's not really a good idea. And at this time, Grady receives a call and tells him that he has to go, but that Harlan needs to come with him. Next, we see Bree's son walking, and his father drives by, and his father actually confronts him about working at the fish house. He tells him that he cannot work at the fish house anymore, and I was just like, damn, just as he was getting comfortable with his mom. After this, we see Grady and Harlan go to a secluded area, and we see that the men who were pulled over actually beat the fuck out of the person that pulled him over, and it turns out that that person is actually the sheriff. Grady is pissed because he feels like the sheriff should have known who they were and what they were doing, and I thought that was a little weird because it's like they were in a basic white box truck, so it could have been anyone, but I guess I can see where he's coming from. Harlan tells the man, like, hey, please let me just have a conversation with them on the side. I'll get them together. And so they do walk off, and he basically says you have two choices. Either you can follow Grady's rules or you can get killed. Basically, you need to choose what you want to do, right? And so Harlan brings them back to the group, and then it's at this time that the sheriff actually slips up and tells him about Sanchez, and I was just like, dang, that was a terrible move. Harlan, he's able to talk him out of it at the time, and the men actually let him go, and they actually give him his gun back. Next, we see King go to the bank, and he talks with the woman who tells him that the family's debt is actually getting ready to be sold off to another bank, and it appears that West may be able to get the land even though Bell did not sign a contract. We then see Bree go to the motel to talk to Sanchez, and she has alcohol, she has drugs, and you all know that Sanchez just recently got out of rehab, and it's unclear at this time if he actually used the drugs during this scene. After this, we see Harlan and Grady having a conversation, and Harlan's trying to convince them to limit the amount of runs that they are doing, but Grady's not hearing any of that. Grady actually redirects the conversation and tells him that he needs to take care of Sanchez, and you all know what he means by take care of it, and y'all, this actually triggered another side of Harlan, and I was honestly afraid for Sanchez in this moment. And the episode actually ends with Kane and Harlan arriving at the motel, and Sanchez is actually already dead, so we do know that he did do the drugs with Bree. We then see Bree walking down the street. It is raining, and she falls down on her face. Kane drives by, sees her, rushes over, and gets her, and she tells him that she was the one who killed Sanchez, and we also see that she actually took the camera that Sanchez had that was on a tree. In episode 6, we see that Grady is still attempting to convince Harlan to do more runs, and actually tells him that he needs to use one of his boats to do an emergency run for an important person, but Harlan tells him no and tells him to get the fuck out of his office, and I felt good for Harlan that time. I was like, stand up for yourself, right? After this, we see Kane and Bree talk about the events that happened the previous night, and he tells her that the motel staff actually found Sanchez and that his body was transported to Charlotte. He also tells her that his death is being ruled as an overdose. Bree starts feeling bad about what happened because she did not actually want him to die. She only wanted him to use the drugs so she could take pictures and that she could use it for blackmail. She goes on to tell him that she can't stop thinking about Sanchez's death because it reminds her of the time that she witnessed her grandfather's death. And this actually confuses Kane because he thought that she was in another room when this happened, but she tells him that she was actually inside of the closet when it happened and that she heard everything. And also mentions that there were 2 men involved, and I feel like that's very important, opposed to the one that people are saying. And she says that she saw him take his last breath, and I felt so bad for her because I'm like, dang, this is probably one of the many reasons why she started doing drugs. After this, we see Bree's son walking down the street, and Grady pulls up next to him, and Grady's actually able to convince him to get in the car, and I was just like, oh my god, this stupid fucking kid gets on my damn nerves. Grady takes him hunting and actually FaceTimes Harlan to show him that his grandson's there, and I just shook my head. The woman who was at the bank that was talking to Kane in the previous episode, she actually arrives at the restaurant and she hands documents over to Belle. And she tells Belle that she was told to bring them to her personally, right? And so Belle looks at the documents and she is visibly shaken up. Harlan eventually makes it to the field where Grady and his grandson are, and he tries to convince his grandson to leave, but his grandson actually is able to convince him to let him stay and continue to hunt. After this, Harlan and Grady have a side conversation, and Harlan tells him that he needs to let him be in control when it comes to doing the runs, right? After this, we see Belle. She meets up with Wes, and we find out that the fish house and the restaurant are going into foreclosure and that they have 45 days to make a payment or they will lose everything. The scene then flashes back to Harlan and Grady, and they are still talking about it, and it appears that Grady's actually in agreement with Harlan controlling the runs. And then after this, Grady picks up his gun, and he's trying to shoot a quail, but he actually ends up shooting his grandson, and I was just like, oh my god, this is crazy. Like, Grady, what the fuck? The family rushes to the hospital, and we find out that Bree's son is actually going to be okay. Bree's son's father and wife arrives, and I was just like, this is not going to be good. And side note, speaking of Bree's son's father's wife, she is so fucking annoying. I just want Bree to snatch her up just one good time, just once, right? But it's at this time that Belle gives Harlan the debt purchasing agreement documents, and he looks very shooken up. After this, we see Belle and Sean go outside, and do you know that Grady had the fucking nerve to show up at the hospital with some balloons that he got from Dollar Tree? Belle can't take it, so she smacks the shit out of him, and then one of Grady's people actually tries to hem her up, and it looks like he's actually getting ready to hit her back, but Sean rushes over and spears him, and then proceeds to whoop the person's ass that grabbed Belle, and it looks like he's actually getting ready to whoop Grady's ass, but security comes in and stops him. Later that night, we see Harlan inside of his office, and he's looking at the documents that Belle gave him when he hears a noise. He goes downstairs, and he's immediately surrounded by a group of men. Grady comes out and commands his man to basically hem him up, put him on a table, and then he places a bunch of jellyfish on his body, and I was just like, whoa, that is crazy. He tells Harlan that he better fall in line, or he's going to hurt everyone in his family, including Kane's daughter, and I was just like, Look what you got yourself into, buddy. And that was the end of episode 6. I do want to thank you all for watching this video. I know that I normally go into depth and I provide a lot of detail, but I just want to condense these two together. And I am going to do the same thing for the last 2 episodes. If you all could, please like, comment, share, subscribe. I would really appreciate it. You all have a great rest of your day. Bye.